we're here with Rai Cornell, who is the CEO and the strategic marketing consultant of CornellContentMarketing.com. Rai helps B2B businesses become thought leaders by creating long-term demand generation strategies and eliminating costly and unnecessary short-term manipulative tactics like ads. That sounds exciting. That sounds good to me. We know that bad copy is a crime. One disingenuous word can cause customers to lose faith in your brand. We don't want that. We want the right words. Rai is here to help us out. Rai, glad to be speaking with you.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having me, Robert.
Glad to have you. It's like a talk show, right? Glad to have you. Thanks for having me. But as far as you and what you're all about, what your current passion and focus is, what did I leave out in the bio? What are you currently just super jazzed excited about?
It's funny that you say that because actually just this morning I saw a post on LinkedIn where someone said HR is not on your side. And that got me thinking. I knew we were recording today and it got me all riled up because advertisers are not on your side. Marketers are not on your side. And I intend to change that. Marketers should be your friend. They should be the people who are figuring out the problem solution relationships that are going to make your life easier. That's my big mission.
Okay, so because they're not on your side, they say they are, but you need to be on your own side and kind of know where you're at and know what problem you're solving. And I find myself in that similar thought process too. When you're scrolling LinkedIn and you're like, hey, someone said this copy statement that got my attention, but it applies to their industry. Now let me
Yeah.
like reuse that in my own kind of purposes. And like I saw a similar post of that like a few days ago. Maybe it was the same post, who knows? But it was like saying like HR says this, but what that really means is this. And it was like three
Mhm.
or four different things. And I was even thinking like, hey, that's a cool like narrative structure that I can apply to something like completely different, but still is that tool that performs that job. And so what's a good kind of starting point, jumping off point for us here as far as like getting ourselves on our own side of marketing, if that's a thing, or just like being in control of our own destiny? What should we do to start solving this problem?
Yeah. So a lot of people think that when it comes to marketing, they need to do what they see everybody else doing. But the problem with that is so many people, so many companies are enticed by these short term, short, kind of instant gratification sort of strategies that ultimately leave them scrambling just 3 months later to figure out, okay, what do we do next? And it leaves their target audience feeling really crummy about their brand because they feel like they've been manipulated or lied to or somehow just duped, or that whole like, oh, ad got me kind of feeling, where you're pitting yourself against the people that you really want to connect with. So I mean, the main thing that I guess is the running theme through everything that I teach my clients and through all of the content that we produce at Cornell is trust your gut. I mean, stop doing the things that everyone else is doing and do things your own way.
And so do things your own way, trust your gut. And what does that lead to? Is content marketing the answer?
Yeah, ultimately, I work with companies that want to be seen as thought leaders. I work with companies that don't know how to differentiate themselves from the competition. And I see this a lot in the tech space where a company has a particular solution to provide. Maybe it's help desk or IT infrastructure or cybersecurity, whatever the case may be. And they struggle to explain why they're different from the company right next door doing the exact same thing. But really, when you get into it, one of my favorite things about working with new companies is getting to know the people within the organization because it's those people that really make the company different from the next one. And if you can step outside the bottle for a minute, because you can't read the label when you're inside the bottle, if you step outside that mini ecosystem for a minute and try to appreciate what's really special about the humans within your organization, then you're able to start shining a spotlight on what makes your company different and how it's going to appeal to the humans on the other end of the buying process. Because a lot of companies think, oh, B2B, we're selling business to business. No, you're really not. You're selling human assets to other humans.
Well, very nice. And so when someone figures some of this out, right? They figure out what their peopling is all about and how they
Mhm.
differentiate. What does that then lead to? Are you all about the social media posts, the blog posts, the landing pages, all the above? Like, what does content marketing become as far as what
Mm.
you deliver?
Yeah. So the what of it, meaning is it a landing page? Is it social media content? Is it email marketing? Is it blog content and SEO? What is it? That really depends on who you're trying to connect with. The substance of content marketing is taking what you know as a company and what sets you apart, the things that you go into work knowing, but the people who are paying you for your product or service don't know. So taking all of that stuff that sometimes people struggle to identify what their real expertise is because it feels so common and day to day to them. But taking that and giving it to the people that you're trying to connect with. So give them information, give them education, teach them the lingo, teach them why your way is better. And often the mechanism of that really depends on who you're trying to connect with and how they prefer to consume content. So if you think about the people who, and I mean really the granularity of the exact people who you want to connect with, how are they consuming content? Are they busy moms and dads who listen to podcasts on their way to work or while they're doing laundry? Are they people who have time to surf the internet and you want to climb to the top of visibility based on SEO? In that case, do blog content? Are they people who are constantly scrolling on their phones? In that case, you might be on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or TikTok. It really depends on the who and delivering your unique message in the way that's going to be easiest for them to find and consume.
Okay, so you're saying who am I targeting, and then
Yes.
where are they hanging out, and then deliver my unique message, which consists of what is obvious to me or what my company's expertise is, but they might not know about. And so let's say that you land one of these clients and you dig in, you start to work. What's the method to the madness there? How do you figure out where their people are hanging out?
So, this comes down to a deep psychological profile on the person who's either going to be the decision maker or the gatekeeper. So, oftentimes when we're doing marketing and we're doing ICP research for that ideal client profile, a lot of companies neglect the fact that there is a gatekeeper. They think, oh, I want to be targeting the CEO, the COO, the CFO, the CMO, depending on what your service is. But really, is that person the one who's going to find out about you and then go through this long process of vetting you and meeting you and asking questions? No, likely they're going to delegate that to someone on their team, or someone on their team is going to go, ooh, my boss was just talking about how we need help with XYZ. And now I'm stumbling upon all of these solutions. And let me find the top three that I think are going to be the best fit and then present these to my boss. So you have to get very detailed in terms of who you're trying to speak to, the decision maker and the gatekeeper. And then, and this is my favorite part of working with companies, you have to put yourself in their shoes. We as humans have this incredible ability to have empathy for others. And if we empathize with the person who's actually doing the shopping and the vetting and the processing of options, and we ask ourselves, what are their day to day, not just roles, not just what's in their job description, what are their responsibilities? What are the things that keep them up at night? What are the things consuming the majority of their time? And we start to alleviate the pains and the stressors that they deal with, even if they are tangential to the product and service we ultimately want them to buy. That's when you start building this incredible, unbreakable trust that will eventually make you the one that they want to choose, even if you're more expensive than the competition.
Very nice. So we need to be pursuing multiple people in the organization because it might not be just one decision maker and figure out where they're stuck, have empathy. And so I'm curious what that looks like. Do you have a good example of like when you we're looking for this ICP and doing this whole B2B thing and you said like, okay, well, we need to like target these specific people and talk to these specific needs. Like how do you even begin to think that through?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, there's a company that I've been working with that is a managed services provider. And they often identify their target buyer as the CEO, CFO, or COO, the C suite of individuals, which any marketer will tell you it's very hard to get close to those individuals. And those individuals are usually very savvy. They know when you're trying to market to them. They don't respond to cold emails, they don't respond to LinkedIn propositions. It's just you're barking up the wrong tree when you try to go there, even though they are the ones who are eventually going to be signing off on the deal. So, with that sort of situation, we looked at okay, so what are we really trying to solve for these companies? In the case of my client, they're trying to improve their IT infrastructure, make sure it's secure, make sure that everything is running efficiently, using AI to address common support tickets, have a really robust help desk system. And so, who are the people who are going to be frustrated with their current setup in that regard? Well, it's definitely not the CEO and COO and CFO. It's usually going to be the director of IT managers, project managers. Those are the people who have the ability to start throwing my client's name into leadership meetings and saying, hey, this company has a lot of value to offer. We might want to consider switching to them.
Okay. Well, I like how it's not straightforward, right? There's kind of some
Right.
thinking involved and some kind of like strategy to be put in place. And so where do people maybe get stuck with this? Like I'm sure there's like lots of nuances. And even when content marketing comes up, I'm always thinking like, okay, like is there such a thing as like too much of a good thing, especially with
Mm.
AI, you can just like spit out all kinds of
Ugh,
content. And then
yeah.
there's the kind of the copywriting fear of being like, well, am I being too overwhelming? Or am I giving them too much to learn? Am I confusing them? Am I not? Am I like killing the excitement about my solution because I'm overeducating?
Mhm.
So, like, where do people go wrong as far as their content marketing goes?
Yeah, so I think the main issue that I see when people start to put content marketing strategies together is they ask themselves, well, what do we want to talk about? What are we experts in? What do we want? That's not the priority, and it should never be the priority. Your priority should be the people that we're trying to connect with. What are they struggling with? And what do they need to think, feel, and believe in order to take steps closer to us? So, what I do with my clients is we go through this process of building out the experience that a buyer is going to have all the way through the stages of change. So, my background is in psychology, and we use the stages of change model a lot when I was working in substance abuse centers and the mental hospitals and things like that. And this idea of stages of change applies to anything, not just, the extremes of needing to change substance abuse behavior, but really any behavior. If we're going to take that uncomfortable journey to switch from something that we've known and gotten used to, even if we complain about it, which that in and of itself can be a comfort for some people, and switch all the way over to something brand new and unknown, then there's a lot of work that needs to be done between point A and point Z. So if we break that down between problem awareness, contemplation, decision, action, and we look at what's going on internally for the humans who are having this experience, then we can create content that is tailored to helping them move from one stage to the next and building trust and likability with your brand all along the way. Doing that is far more successful because you're guiding them. You're literally putting the stepping stones right in front of their toes, as opposed to basically putting up a billboard saying, this is what we want to talk about. I hope you see it.
Well, very nice. And so it seems like everything that you're teaching us here today involves just kind of thinking things through, right? And
Mm.
taking your time more and not just saying, hey, here's my stuff. Can you buy it? Oh, why didn't it work? You're kind of doing more of a multi-step process. And so as far as like taking someone through these steps of change to make sure we really understand it, do you have like a good example of that?
In terms of like, what are the steps?
Or just like how those 5 steps look as far as like, hey, we have this solution, we have this person, how do we get them there?
Yeah. So this is often a much more complicated um, outcome than clients expect. So when a company actually sits down to do this, the thing that I absolutely love is when we're workshopping this and we're putting notes into the whole matrix. And I keep asking the question, okay, and what else? And what else? And what else? And they never run out of things to say. And it's just this epiphany, eye-opening moment where they go, oh, wow, there's a lot more here for us to consider than we initially thought. So I'll give you an example, but don't let that oversimplify the actual work that's involved. An example would be, so let's say someone doesn't know that they have a problem. That's the first stage. That's the pre problem awareness. They might, and I'll use one of our clients as an example. So I work with a CPR training platform that uses technology to help make sure that CPR training resources are available to remote and dispersed teams, that they're able to do their hands on skills evaluations from anywhere at any time that's convenient for them so they don't have to schedule weekend and overtime classroom training events. There we go. And then they also send out all of the automated reminders and all of these things. And so if we think about that client as an example, one of the people that they're trying to connect with, when they don't realize that they have a problem, they might be struggling to juggle all of the certification tracking and keep track of their team members and get their team members to actually do things. At that stage, we want to move them from pre problem awareness to problem awareness. We want to help them become aware of the fact that they have a problem. So, what are we going to do? We're going to create content that says, hey, did you know that you don't have to constantly nag your team to do things? Did you know there's a way to make sure that your team feels self accountable for accomplishing all the things that you need to do in order for your organization to remain in compliance? We create content around that. That has nothing to do, on the surface with actual CPR training, but we are creating content that helps this person realize, oh, wait, this thing that I'm struggling with and complaining about at the water cooler, that could actually go away, that problem, and I can have an easier time of doing things. Let me read this article. Let me watch this video. Let me read the full LinkedIn post. And then suddenly they're aware of the problem. So that's one example of taking someone from that first chink in the process to the second.
I love it, and I think by looking at it through this lens, it helps with the not overthinking so much, because like sometimes the content that I end up landing on, I'll end up on like I'll be trying to figure out like how to add like a fave icon on my website, and end up on a WP Beginner on like a WordPress tutorial site. I'm looking at,
Yeah,
well, how do I set up a podcast, and I end up on Riverside or Zoom, like a recording,
exactly.
platform, because they're thinking in these terms. They're like, well, if I walk them through this path, eventually it will lead to my solution, but I'm not quite there yet. So let me be helpful in the meantime and catch their
Yes.
attention in all these other ways. And so, and I also like how you mentioned here about when you kind of put everyone's heads together and you brainstorm and you throw out the
Mhm.
ideas and you have fun, then that's kind of the magic of copywriting, right? Of like there's no limit to the ideas, and we kind of take for granted there's like a survivorship bias where you land on this content or this video or post, whatever, and it's like, whoa, it's so thought through and this is exactly what I need. But we take for granted, like, how many ideas did you have to sift through? How many things did you have to try in order for that to be the thing that got my attention personally? And so we're in our last few minutes of our conversation. We want to make sure that people's issues are addressed and that we make you look good. So, in the spirit of that, what question am I not asking you here? Is there something that you
Mm.
wish I was asking and I just don't know how to ask it?
Sure. So, I can talk about content marketing all day long, but the real question is, well, what's the alternative? If I'm not doing content marketing, what am I doing? Most people turn to these short term, kind of manipulative marketing tactics like ads and high pressure funnels and scarcity and these marketing emails that say, hey, exclusive offer just for you. Well, that's a bold faced lie. That's the alternative. And so, what I'm trying to do, what I kind of alluded to at the beginning of our conversation, is take people away from those short-term tactics that force you to be very manipulative and high pressure, and take them into a process of marketing that is not only full of integrity and positions your brand in a really positive light because you really are the problem solver for the people that you're trying to connect with and convert, but also it's a more long-term sustainable process. So rather than pouring thousands upon thousands of dollars a month into ads, you are paying to create something once, but it lives online forever. And as you build each new step in this process, the previous steps that you've put in place become more and more powerful. So your ROI is just compounding month over month, as opposed to going down the drain with Facebook ads and Instagram ads and LinkedIn ads and all those things that tend to get people temporarily, but you don't build the long term relationships that are going to get you the word of mouth marketing, the retention, and that recurring revenue.
Very true, very wise. And we've all seen horror stories like that
Mm,
or heard about things like that where you stop the ad dollars and even if that worked very well, you stop it and then the traffic stops. It makes a lot
yes.
more sense to build a business that grows over time and that accumulates instead of you just having to always play catch up. And so if
Yes.
someone here was watching or listening to a podcast and they're super impressed with the ideas that you had, they had a few little breakthroughs on ahas, but a podcast is only a taste. We want to send them over to you to kind of get more of the good stuff, right? Like all of our conversations, I'm talking about you put out the content to kind of get them to the next stage, and then maybe they then want more. And so, how does someone know if they are your ICP? How do they know if they're
Mm.
a good fit for you? And if they are, where should they go?
Sure. Well, we in particular work with B2B companies, usually a company that is either very technology forward or technology enabled, which that's quite a lot nowadays. And those are the companies that we love to help them shine, help them get their thought leadership out there and really show a better way of doing things. However, my method and my process really works for any business. And I'm a huge proponent of giving people the tools they need to do things the right way on their own. And if they want help, I'm here. Reach out to me. It's easy. You can get in touch with me through my website or LinkedIn, wherever you like. But I want you to be able to do this without having to pay me a cent. So if you go to cornellcontentmarketing.com/demand gen kit, you can get the brainstorming kit that I use with my clients. There's a quick worksheet, and then within that, there's also a link to get our full matrix that you can fill out with your team and do this stages of change process within your own marketing team.
Well, all right. So that is cornellcontentmarketing.com/demand gen kit. That way
Yes.
you can start applying some of these exciting ideas that Ray is presenting to you here. It's one thing to be a spectator and to learn and listen, and it's a great start. But at some point, you have to say, well, how does this apply to me? And how can I put some of these thoughts and ideas into action? And Ray has a great business model here where you say, well, here, I'm going to give away all this information for free. And if that gets you there, then great. But if you really need that extra brain, that done for you service, the extra team on it, then Ray is here for you. And so if someone say they go to your website, they get that kit, they run through the 5-step process, like how is there a way for them to know if they're at the point where they need you? Do you like a business of a certain size or with like certain problems? Like what's your like who needs to be talking to you right now?
Sure. Yeah. We tend to work with companies that are anywhere from 5 to 500 employees. So I know that's a big range. But the problem I often see, even with the biggest companies, is that they have a marketing team of two or one or five. And that is just not enough to produce the volume of content that you need to get this demand generation machine up and running. So if you're struggling to really figure out all of the pieces that you need to build, how to build the complete funnel. A lot of companies just focus on lead gen or just focus on conversions, but that's middle and bottom of funnel. You're not going to capture people into the funnel if you're missing the top of it. And that's where demand generation comes into place. So if you're really struggling to put those pieces together, create the content that's going to make Google happy and humans happy and AI search tools happy, then that's where we can really help you put everything together in a high quality outcome.
Very cool. Like as you said, there's so much to think about, right?
Yeah, there
Keeping
is.
Google happy, the humans, the AI, the
Yeah.
voice search. There's so many things to figure out, and even on top of all that, how to make sure that your content isn't just all this slapdash randomness, right? Where it
Yep.
actually funnels people, gets them on a path. So there's so much to think about, and the kind of the idea that keeps coming to mind in our conversation is this idea of so many times before you tackle a problem, you're not really aware of how much work is involved, right? You say, "Oh, I'll run a marathon. Oh, I'll build a house with my bare hands." But if you actually started doing it, it'd be like, "Whoa, there's a lot more to this than I thought." And at that
Yeah.
point, many people give up.
Yep.
And the solution there is to get some help from someone like you. And help can mean a lot of different things. And it can especially mean going to cornellcontentmarketing.com/demand gen kit. That way you have these additional resources, maybe get your team together and figure out, okay, like do we need to figure out? And maybe who do we need to add to the team? Maybe more than one marketing person, as you
Mhm.
said, because there's such a need to be cranking out the content, but good content. And
Mhm.
as you know, Ray, when you open LinkedIn and you see the posts, the feeds all the time, we need to be posting all the time and helping people and having it also help our business. And so in the spirit of that, that's why we have this podcast here, over 1,200 episodes. And I'm always looking for all the nuggets from you so we can pull out the reels and the posts and all that. And so, for what one final selfish act here is I'd like to get one final little soundbite and ask you for a helpful quote or lesson that has served you, that can serve us. And it's for selfish reasons because it's an almost guaranteed reel we can pull out. So, what comes to mind for you, Ray Cornell, is as far as a quote or lesson that has helped you that can help us?
Yeah, I think we were all taught as kids the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. And somewhere along the way in our professional lives, we forget that, or we think it only matters to, our relationships with people that we work next to. But in marketing and advertising, it is the pinnacle of everything that we should be focusing on. And if you are a consumer and you receive an email or you see an ad or you get sucked into some kind of funnel that makes you feel icky, don't do that to the people that you're trying to reach out to. Produce the marketing that you would feel good about receiving as a consumer, and just treat people the way that you would want to be treated from start to finish.
Great life and business advice. Golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated. Ray Cornell, CornellContentMarketing.com. Wonderful speaking with you. Great encouragement, motivation, advice. I really enjoyed it.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Robert.